Welcome to Rauta. This video is done in commercial collaboration with our sponsor, Steelfest. Welcome to Roda's non-metal reviews. This time it's quite different, quite unique, quite peculiar release. This is something that I got actually last year from Cold Spring, and indeed it's a compilation with various artists with over 2 hours of music. Well, roughly 2 hours anyway. And this one is peculiar. First of all, not only because it's a compilation, not only because it's a very marginal music, but secondly, it's all about Iranian artists. Now, if you're much like me, you probably don't know many or any Iranian-based artists. I got to know one, and even that artist from the vastland is nowadays living in Norway. By the way, a great interview, even if I say myself, with that particular artist. But when it comes beyond that, I don't know any. At least not until I got to listen to this interesting release called Visions of Darkness, Volume 2, and there's this undertitle about being Iranian artists. Now, 20 tracks is quite something. One could even figure out like how you come up with different artists, so many doing this kind of stuff, contemporary Iranian music and all that stuff. But it seems it's possible. I mean, it's not a small country, but then again, not really known to mainstream media or so forth. Like, hey, this is a big country with full of music and interesting artists and all that stuff, which makes this even more fascinating if you ask me. It's not like you're doing a compilation of, say Nordic black metal. Everybody knows it. Or something like, American death metal. Everybody knows it once again. But when you were talking about Iranian artists doing instrumental, ambient, and beyond, now that is something you don't get to listen every day. So I hope you have a couple of minutes while I try to guide you through this particular album, and maybe I'll pick your interest with this one and maybe you get to listen to it, because in my opinion definitely it's worth your time. Now, as with all various artists releases or of all kind of compilations, not everything is pure gold. I mean, there are only few exceptions when you're doing like a, I don't know, Bathory discography run or whatever, or making compilations of those. Maybe then you have like a compilation which is just pure gold. But let's be honest about most various artists compilations are not exactly that, for various reasons. Sometimes it's way too much like from one direction to another, and the style changes too much. You like certain parts a lot and the other ones not so much, etc. And there are lots of stuff coming between. Now, this is one of those better various artists compilation, even though I didn't like all the tracks. Now, mind you, when I say I didn't like, it doesn't mean that I hate it or dislike it. Then I just say that there are some parts which I feel kind of a mediocrity in a way. Maybe not even that bad, but still, some tracks are not right up my alley, so to say. And then there are tracks which I really liked a lot. So to how to sum it up, and when you have like 20 tracks and different artists on one and the same compilation, it's not really easy unless you just go, yeah, it's marginal music in the instrumental ways, and that's pretty much of it. Now, to sum up 20 songs and various styles and all that stuff, well, let me put it this way. During the parts when this album is all about those dark ambient ballad parts, they are my favorite ones. Like the very first track on this album could be really the best track. I mean, like at that point, I was really like, wow, this is something phenomenal, something that I'm really going to enjoy a lot, because it's kind of a dark ambient I'm very much a fan of, very minimal in nature, not too much happening, in kind of a sinister atmosphere and all that stuff. But then again, you might know this if you have been following my previous dark ambient reviews and all that stuff. But there are parts when this is more like something else. Not every track here is, of course, ambient, not to mention dark ambient. Some of them are more, in a way, more industrial sense. Some of them are more droney stuff. Some of them are almost like borderline bop. Maybe that's too far-fetched, but my point here is to exaggerate a little bit so you get the idea. Uh, while this is purely marginal and it's instrumental one, the thing here is there are lots of variations between the different songs, which is, I guess, given when you have like 20 tracks. But overall, this is kind of a soothing trip, an audio ways that you're listening to some kind of a like a soundtrack almost to some obscure movie or series or even game. This could be a really like a indie game soundtrack in so many ways. Like the themes are very different. Some are darker, some are more energetic, but overall this has nothing to do with mainstream music. This is not something that you listen on the radio. And if it does play on the radio, color me surprised. Now overall I would say this is kind of a safe bet for a lot of Cold Spring fans or other labels operating in such fields because this is offering you drony parts and dark ambient ones and parts that are quite close to the same thing. Obviously Cold Spring is a relatively big label for this given kind of a marginal music, so you might find kind of a raw end of noisy, harsh noise, power electronics, whatever, or industrial in the middle, and then the kind of a more minimal dark ambient like Lala on the label. So coming from that fan base or territory, it's not really that surprising that Cold Spring is doing this kind of a release. And in my opinion, it's fascinating. Like I said, not every song can be like super good because when it's various artists, it's almost like you're listening to any kind of a metal compilation or pop music, hip hop music compilation. You're gonna like some of the tracks more, and then there are songs which are like, I'm gonna skip them. But having 2 hours of music, I mean, this is a really, really good gateway release in so many ways. When you pick up your favorite ones and you kind of dial them up later on, like figuring out like follow up. With the actual releases, this could be really opening a lot of gates, entryways to these various musicians and artists here. So I think this is doing interesting favor to a lot of those artists, like which have previously been next to unknown, now might have a chance to end up in people's playlists. So that's why I'm so thrilled about it. Like even though I cannot say I am fully like wow, mind blown, but the best parts kind of justify the existence of this compilation. And indeed, some of my favorite might be one of the more dull ones for a lot of other people, and the ones that I find more dull are actually maybe more fascinating to a lot of people out there. So to each his own and all that stuff. Now, give this one a chance. Now, if I'm not mistaken, there is also a third volume either already released or coming up, and at least first one before this one. So in case this got your interest going on for marginal music, maybe you should explore further. I would if I have just had just the time with my review albums and all, but for the time being, this is my entry for this one, and I try to come back to this one later on with those favorite artists of mine. So give it a go, and I hope you won't be disappointed. At least it's gonna be something different than your usual playlists, and if not, color me surprised once again. Thanks for your time with the review. Should you have comments or questions, drop in the comments box below, and I'll get back to you. Bye bye.